Pull up a stool? Yeah, right there at the end of the bar is perfect.
Best seat in the house.
Exactly. Got your drink? Good. Just let the ice melt a little, settle in, and listen. Because tonight, we aren't just skimming the surface of some bedtime fairy tale.
Not even close.
Right. We are pulling apart the granddaddy of all Eastern fantasy IP, a narrative where gods fight, the heavens literally crack open, and mortals just sort of, suffer the collateral damage down in the mud.
Which is usually how these things go.
Always. We're talking about the investiture of the gods, or Fengshen Yanyi. Now, you probably know the baseline lore, right? Magic swords, people riding around a mythical beast, throwing literal mountains at each other.
Standard mythological fare.
Standard stuff, yeah. But we have a stack of sources here tonight. Academic papers on Ming Dynasty literature, unvarnished translations of the original text, and several modern corporate theory cross-analyses.
It's a very specific lens.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to look past the magic tricks. Because when you actually look at the mechanics of why these entities are killing each other, it is the most brutal, cynical, and painfully accurate corporate restructuring manual ever written.
It really is a workplace survival guide disguised as theology. And, well, a very bloody one.
Highly bloody.
The sources we're working from tonight strip away that mythological veneer. They reframe this entire ancient epic not as a cosmic battle between good and evil, but as a hostile takeover.
A massive one.
Right. Heavily leveraged heavenly court restructuring, where earthly empires are just shell companies being liquidated for their assets.
So you sit there nursing that drink, stressing about modern corporate layoffs or hostile takeovers, or maybe you read the news and stress about international proxy wars. Let me tell you, that stuff is absolute amateur hour.
Truly.
You want to see how ancient deities handle HR disputes?
Yeah.
It makes a modern boardroom look like a kindergarten sandbox.
Because the stakes are a bit higher than a severance package.
Just a bit. Because in this universe, when upper management wants to downsize, they don't just take away your stock options. They take your physical body, vaporize it, and chain your soul to a desk for eternity.
A literal eternity.
Yeah. So I want to start at ground zero of this whole disaster. How does the most powerful company in the world, the Shang Dynasty, which has an absolute monopoly on earthly power, get completely, totally liquidated just because the CEO sent a bad text message?
Well, you're assuming the text message was the cause rather than the excuse.
Oh, that's a good point.
To understand the reaction, you really have to look at the structural power dynamics. It's the classic catastrophic failure of new money recognizing old money.
I mean, I'm not sure King Zhu fits the new money profile, though. Well, let's look at his resume before the incident.
Yeah. History and pop culture love to paint King Zhu, or Di Xin, as this cartoon villain from day one.
A raving lunatic.
Right, like he inherited the big chair and immediately started setting things on fire. But our sources highlight a very different reality. This guy was the surface's strongest CEO. He was highly competent.
He wasn't some incompetent Nepo baby. He was an absolute beast. He was highly literate, a strategic genius who led military campaigns against the Donji tribes to secure the borders. And physically.
The texts say he was remarkably strong.
The texts say he was strong enough to hold up collapsing structural beams of a palace with his bare hands. The Shang Dynasty, under his early leadership, was posting record profits. The monopoly was secure.
Earthly management being the key phrase there.
Yeah.
He was highly competent at managing mortal assets, but his fatal flaw was that his earthly success completely blinded him to metaphysical reality.
He drank his own PR Kool-Aid.
Exactly. He fundamentally misunderstood the cosmic org chart.
And that arrogance leads to the inciting incident, the routine site inspection. He goes on a PR tour and visits the temple of the goddess Nua. Now, we all know Nua's baseline lore.
The mother goddess.
Right, creating humanity out of yellow clay, patching the sky, all that. But what our source texts highlight here is her legal standing in the celestial hierarchy.
She isn't just a popular local deity.
No. She's the board of directors, the founder's trust, and the Supreme Regulatory Commission all rolled into one. She bypasses the Jade Emperor entirely. So King Zhu walks into her temple, looks up at her magnificent statue, and suddenly gets swept up by how beautiful she is.
And we know what he does next.
We do. Our brilliant, highly capable CEO pulls out a pen and writes a highly inappropriate, incredibly flirtatious poem right there on the temple wall.
It's important to look at the actual text of that poem, or at least the intent behind it. He wasn't just saying she was pretty.
Oh, no.
He was implying that she belonged in his earthly harem. He was attempting to subordinate a cosmic founder to his mortal corporate structure.
Which is insane.
Oh.
It is the geopolitical equivalent of a modern superpower's president showing up at the ancestral gravesite of the world's most powerful, oldest money matriarch.
Why?
He does a little ballet dance on the tombstone and then tweets out to his millions of followers that the matriarch's great-grandmother is super hot and he'd love to take her for a ride.
It's pure geopolitical suicide.
Completely.
Hmm?
It's not just a localized HR violation. It's a death wish. You do not hit on the entity that manufactured your species. You just don't.
He thought earthly power translated to absolute power. He assumed the rules of consequence didn't apply to him anymore.
Yeah.
But the metaphysical mechanics of this universe don't care about earthly GDP. The moment that poem was carved into the wall, the Shang dynasty's destruction progress bar officially started loading.
The progress bar didn't just start loading. Nua came back, read the graffiti, and slammed her hand on the accelerate button. She is livid.
Understandably.
But this is where the strategy gets fascinating. She's old money. She's upper management. If she wanted him dead, she could just strike him with lightning, right? Why doesn't she just nuke the palace?
Because direct intervention leaves fingerprints.
Ah.
Nua is bound by cosmic law and karma. If she directly annihilates a mortal king who still has an allotted span of dynastic destiny, she incurs massive karmic debt.
The paperwork would be a nightmare.
Exactly. The Cosmic Regulatory Commission would penalize her. Instead, she utilizes plausible deniability. She opens her Rolodex and dispatches a Black Ops team.
The 3 Fox Spirit Sisters. And their mission brief is chillingly simple, devastating, and entirely deniable.
Infiltrate the Shang dynasty, seduce the CEO, and rot the entire empire from the inside out.
Don't fight his armies are too strong. Destroy his corporate culture.
It is a textbook corporate sabotage operation, and the reason it works so flawlessly is because King Zou's arrogance made him uniquely vulnerable to internal rot.
He wanted yes men, or yes foxes.
Nua didn't need to defeat Shang's military. She just needed to bankrupt their moral and administrative capital.
He practically handed the fox spirits the keys to the server room. So down on Earth, the Shang dynasty is slowly, painfully imploding because the CEO is too busy partying with his new consultants to realize his company is burning to the ground.
It's a slow collapse.
But here is where it gets incredibly complex. Because if we zoom out and look at the macroeconomics of the universe, this earthly HR violation isn't happening in a vacuum. Heaven was actually waiting for an excuse to audit the Earth.
Precisely. While earthly management was collapsing, heavenly upper management was simultaneously experiencing a catastrophic staffing crisis.
They needed bodies.
The Jade Emperor's expansion plan was stalling.
Let's unpack the Jade Emperor's situation. He's the ultimate heavenly chairman. He runs the heavenly court, the administrative body of the cosmos. But his company is growing too fast. He needs staff to expand his operations.
Bureaucracy always needs more staff.
Right. He needs middle managers, department heads, weather regulators, plague distributors, constellation supervisors. He needs bodies in seats to process the cosmic paperwork. But here's the rub. Nobody in the immortal realm wants these jobs.
And why would they? You have to understand the mechanics of immortal cultivation.
Lay it out for us.
Cultivation is the process of accumulating cosmic energy, or chi, to refine your physical body and rewrite your metaphysical code. It's an independent pursuit.
Highly independent.
Being an immortal means you are a sovereign entity. You float on clouds, you meditate in caves, you manipulate the elements. You are a highly successful freelance consultant.
Right. If you're a freelancer making your own hours, traveling the cosmos, why on Earth or in heaven would you willingly give that up to go work a 9-to-5 desk job for the Jade Emperor?
You wouldn't.
You just wouldn't.
So the Heavenly Court had to create a draft, a forced corporate downsizing disguised as a promotion.
The investiture of the gods.
That's the one.
Disguised as a promotion. I love how our sources found that. That's exactly what the investiture list is. 3 major religious sects hold a summit. It's like the Yalta Conference, but for immortals.
Very apt comparison.
They sit down and draft this list to fill the Jade Emperor's 365 empty senior roles. But the mechanics of getting on this list are horrific. I need you to explain exactly how a cultivator ends up on the heavenly payroll.
It's quite simple, really. To be placed on the investiture list, you have to physically die.
Stop right there. Just why? If heaven needs employees, why not just hire them alive?
Because a living immortal is independent. Their physical body is the hardware that stores their cultivated power.
Okay, hardware. Got it.
The Heavenly Court doesn't want independent contractors who can walk away. They want Programmable, controllable software.
Wow.
When an immortal is killed in battle, their physical hardware is destroyed. Their soul, the software, is forcibly extracted and pulled by the gravitational pull of the investiture list.
And then what?
Once your soul is on that list, your immortal cultivation is capped forever. You can never grow stronger. You are given a standard issue heavenly body, and your soul is bound to the heavenly court's server.
So you're stuck.
You become a middle manager chained to a desk, entirely dependent on the Jade Emperor's corporate structure.
It is the most cynical, draconian employment contract I ever heard of. Becoming a god in this universe is not a victory. It's losing your autonomy.
Yes.
So the entire impending war is just these rival sects fighting over whose employees have to take the fall, die, and fill that HR quota.
That is the core conflict. And it brings us to the players on the board. You have two main rival factions looking at this death quota, both desperate to avoid liquidating their own departments.
Let's look at the first faction, the G sect, led by a guy named Tumtian Jiazu. Now, if you're mapping this onto modern corporate structures, the G sect is the chaotic, hyper-growth tech startup.
Very chaotic.
Their fundamental philosophy is no class distinctions. They have a ridiculously low barrier to entry. A human? Great. Are you a ghost? Awesome. Are you a literal piece of jade that absorbed moonlight for 1,000 years? Or a particularly smart cat? Welcome aboard.
They cast a wide net.
If you have even a sliver of magical aptitude, you're hired. They are massive, they are passionate, they are reckless, and they're highly diverse.
Well, that's the Chan sect's PR talking.
Oh.
The reality is the G sect was disrupting a closed market. Their low barrier to entry wasn't necessarily a mistake. It was an aggressive user acquisition strategy that threatened the established monopoly on enlightenment.
Ah, so they were stealing market share.
Exactly. But they scaled far too fast. They prioritized numbers over quality control, internal discipline, and structural hierarchy.
They're the quintessential move fast and break things company. You have tens of thousands of disciples, but half of them haven't read the employee handbook.
Which is a liability.
A huge one. Then, across the street, you have their rivals, the Chan sect, led by Yanyi Tianzin. The Chan sect is the Ivy League elite. They are highly exclusive, completely obsessed with pedigree, and they run the most rigorous background checks in the universe.
Very strict screening.
If you have fur and horns, which is their incredibly racist derogatory term for animal spirits or monsters, your resume goes straight into the cosmic trash fire.
They only accept pure humans with innate spiritual roots.
Right. They are the clean-cut, high-level civil servants. They think they are better than everyone else because their PR department has successfully branded them as the orthodox path.
The Chan sect represents established legacy power. They are fewer in number. Their core management team is just 12 golden immortals, but they hold massive systemic advantages.
Like what?
They have the ear of the cosmic regulatory boards. The G sect has the raw numbers and the grassroots support, but they completely lack political capital.
So let me make sure I'm synthesizing these sources quickly. The Ivy League snobs and the tech startup bros are looking at this heavenly HR quota, realizing 365 of their people have to die to fill it.
Yes.
And instead of negotiating with heaven, they decide the best course of action is to orchestrate a proxy war on Earth to murder each other's employees.
Exactly. They weaponize the earthly conflict. The Nuwa incident with King Zu's poem just provided the perfect, legally justifiable earthly battlefield. The Shang dynasty was rotting. A rebellion was inevitable, and the cosmic board was set.
It's all coming together.
But to execute a massive restructuring of this scale, you can't just throw lightning bolts from the clouds.
Right, because of karmic blowback. The paperwork again?
Correct. You need a project manager on the ground. You need someone mortal enough to interface with earthly politics, but connected enough to manage the immortal merger.
Enter the ultimate latent life entrepreneur, Jiang Zia. Take another sip of that drink, because this guy's career trajectory is going to make you question every life choice you've ever made.
Our sources point out that Jiang Zia defies every standard trope of the Chosen One in mythology.
He really does. Usually the hero of these epic narratives is some 20-year-old hotshot with great hair, an ancestral magic sword, and a chip on his shoulder.
And boundless energy.
Right. Jiang Zia is a 72-year-old man who just came down from the mountain to start his first real job. 72. Most people are just happy drawing their pensions and playing bingo at that age.
Not Jiang Zia.
Not him. He spent decades studying under the Chan sect, the Ivy League guys sweeping floors, making tea, trying to cultivate immortality. But eventually, the CEO, Yanyi Tianzin, calls him into the office.
The performance review.
The ultimate bad performance review. He says, look, Jiang, you don't have the innate magical aptitude to be an immortal CEO. You're never going to be a senior partner. You lack the spiritual root. But you are a fantastic operations manager. Go down to earth and handle the earthly proxy war.
It's a brilliant delegation of risk.
How so?
He was given the most difficult, high-stakes operational role precisely because he wasn't valuable enough to keep in the C-suite.
Oh, brutal.
If he fails, the Chan sect loses a low-level intern. If he succeeds, they win the universe.
Ouch. But undeniably true. So Jiang Ziya goes down to earth, and he actually briefly works for the Shang dynasty. He gets a mid-level government job in the capital. But it doesn't take him long to realize that his earthly CEO, King Zhu, has gone completely irredeemably insane.
The fox spirits were doing their job well.
Remember those fox spirits, new ascent? Well, the lead one, Su Daji, is now the queen. And she is fundamentally destroying the company from the inside out.
The academic papers detail the specific nature of her sabotage. She didn't just drain the treasury, she destroyed the structural trust of the organization.
Exactly. She and King Zhu are spending their days literally figuring out how to dissect people's hearts to see how the chambers work.
Horrific.
Or they build a massive bronze pillar, cover it in oil, light a fire underneath it, and force whistleblowers to walk across it until they slip and roast alive. It's called the Powwow punishment.
A literal, physical manifestation of a toxic workplace.
Literally.
When HR is physically incinerating the accounting department for pointing out budget discrepancies, the structural integrity of the state is gone.
So Jiang Ziya nopes right out of there. He recognizes a sinking ship. He travels to the Wei River in the territory of the Western Zoo. And what does he do? He doesn't hand out business cards.
No networking events.
No, he doesn't take out billboard ads or start a political campaign. He sits by the river and he begins fishing. But he fishes with a straight needle. No hook, no bait, just a straight piece of metal dangling 3 feet above the water.
In terms of modern corporate strategy, it is the ultimate flex in inbound marketing and personal branding.
It's a masterclass. People walk by, completely confused, and say, hey, old man, you can't catch fish with a straight needle hovering above the water.
And his response is perfect.
Jiang Ziya just smoothly replies, I'm not fishing for fish. I'm fishing for kings. He didn't send out a single resume. He created an enigmatic, highly viral, metaphysical LinkedIn profile and just sat back and waited for the headhunter to come to him.
And the strategy worked flawlessly because he deeply understood his target audience. He wasn't looking for a job. He was looking for an investor. And King Wen of Zhu, Xicheng, was the perfect angel investor.
Let's talk about King Wen. He was brilliant. He was the regional manager of the West, and he knew the Shang monopoly was vulnerable. He hears the viral rumors about this crazy old man fishing with a straight needle, goes out to meet him personally, and they have a conversation.
The pitch meeting.
Exactly. King Wen instantly sees the brand value in Jiang Ziya. He sees the Ivy League Chan sect pedigree, he sees the strategic mind, and he realizes this 72-year-old man is the key to everything.
Because they weren't just plotting a standard rebellion. A rebellion is just replacing the CEO.
Yeah.
They were planning a complete system update of the earthly operating system, Great Zhu 1.0. They were moving from a centralized, brutal monopoly to a decentralized, feudal franchise model.
They partnered up to launch the startup that would take down the monopoly. But here's the reality of corporate warfare. You can't do a hostile takeover of a global monopoly with just good branding and a new OS.
You need assets.
You need heavy firepower. Once the Great Zhu 1.0 launched and the earthly war officially kicked off, the heavenly corporate factions realized this was their moment. The proxy war was greenlit. It was time to start sending down their heavy hitters.
This is the turning point in the texts. This is where the proxy war escalates from a regional mortal conflict into an all-out, reality-breaking heavenly arms race.
Oh, the escalation is breathtaking. It goes from mortal dudes hitting each other with bronze swords to literal weapons of mass destruction in about 5 minutes.
It accelerates very quickly.
I want to spend a lot of time looking at this roster because this is where the corporate mechanics of the factions really show their true colors. The earthly war is just the backdrop. The real war is the Chan sect special ops versus the G sect's mercenaries. Let's analyze the Chan sect's golden boys first. You've got Neza.
Neza, the quintessential, highly destructive, rebellious, second-generation rich kid.
Calling him destructive is an understatement. Neza is a walking HR nightmare. He is the definition of a Nepo baby with zero accountability.
His track record speaks for itself.
Let's look at his rap sheet. This kid goes to the beach to wash his magic ribbon. The ribbon shakes the underwater palace of the East Sea Dragon King. the Dragon King's son comes up to complain. And keep in mind, in geopolitical terms, the Dragon Kings are the local utility monopoly.
They manage the water supply and weather?
Right. So Neza gets into an argument with this municipal utility director, and his response is to beat him to death and pull out his spine to make a belt.
A slight overreaction.
Just a little. He causes a massive international diplomatic incident that threatens to flood the entire continent.
And how does Chansect management handle this massive liability?
Do they send him to cosmic jail? No. His master, Taiyi Zenrin, one of the Chansect senior partners, just bails him out. When the Dragon Kings demand Neza's life as restitution, Neza commits suicide to pay his karmic debt to his parents.
But that's not the end of it.
But his master just intercepts his soul, fakes his permanent death, and upgrades his body, rebuilding him entirely out of lotus roots.
I want to pause on the lotus root body because our sources highlight the metaphysical brilliance of this upgrade.
It's so smart.
Why a lotus?
Yeah.
By shedding his flesh and blood, Neza severed his karmic liability to his earthly parents.
Loophole.
Furthermore, a plant-based body is entirely immune to soul-targeting spells and biological warfare, which the G-sect relies heavily upon.
Right.
Taiyi Zenrin didn't just bail him out. He removed all of Neza's legal loopholes and turned him into a perfectly insulated corporate asset.
He literally gives the kid a golden parachute, upgrades him with a black tech lotus armor suit, hands him a fire-tipped spear and wind and fire wheels, and sends him right back into the field. It's pure, unadulterated favoritism.
Because in a proxy war, morality is entirely secondary to utility.
Exactly.
Neza was a highly effective, high-yield asset. The Chansect protected their assets regardless of the PR fallout or the ethical violations. They needed killers, not diplomats.
And speaking of killers, you have young Jin, also known as Erlang Shen. If Neza is the chaotic rich kid who breaks things, young Jin is the top-tier CIA special operations agent of the immortal world. The contrast is fascinating.
Yang Jin represents the Chansect's ideal employee. Highly competent, emotionally detached, and entirely focused on the objective.
Exactly. This guy is strictly professional. He possesses the physical cultivation of the 8-9 profound art, which gives him 72 transformations.
Very versatile.
He can shapeshift into anything. A bird, a flag, an enemy general. His combat ceiling is incredibly high, and he doesn't let his ego or emotions get in the way. If a frontal assault doesn't work, he retreats, transforms into a fly, infiltrates the enemy camp, and poisons their supply chain.
Efficient.
You point him at a target, and the target disappears. He is the ultimate company man.
The contrast between the Chansect's focused, elite, loophole-free operatives and the G-sect's sprawling, uncoordinated numbers is the defining tactical reality of the entire conflict.
And it creates a hilariously toxic yet completely devastating escalation loop. Let's look at how the G-sect manages their workforce. Remember, they are the massive startup. They have tens of thousands of employees scattered all over the cosmos.
Too many to manage properly.
Way too many. So one of their mid-level managers decides to go down to Earth to help the Shang dynasty. Maybe they want to show off. Maybe they want to secure a government contract, or maybe they just want field experience. They run into Yang Jian or Neza, and because they're just a mid-level manager, they get absolutely pulverized.
And what is the standard operating procedure when a G-sect employee is killed?
They don't file an incident report. They don't analyze the tactical failure. The dead guy's best friend gets mad, so he cries to his senior manager.
Emotional escalation.
Right? He's like, hey, the Ivy League kids from Chansect beat up our guy. So the senior manager goes down to Earth to get revenge, completely unprepared for the Chansect special ops team, and he gets beaten to death. So his master cries to the VP.
It is the classic piecemeal deployment of forces. It's exactly how not to run a military campaign and how not to run a corporate strategy.
And embarrassing.
They allowed the Chansect to defeat their massive army one department at a time.
It's disastrous. They just keep feeding their employees into the meat grinder one by one, driven entirely by interpersonal loyalty and ego rather than a cohesive corporate strategy. But eventually, the escalation reaches critical mass.
It has to.
The VPs get killed, the elite disciples of the G-sect are wiped out, so the survivors go crying to the CEO, Tongqin Jiaozu, and they say, boss, the Chansect isn't just defending themselves, they are systematically murdering our entire workforce.
The numbers become impossible to ignore.
Right, they tell them the heavenly layoff list is going to be 100% our people. They are liquidating our entire company. And the CEO, who had previously told his staff to stay out of the earthly war, finally loses his temper. He decides to stop playing games and brings out the WMDs.
The arrays. This is where the cosmic physics of the universe are fundamentally threatened. We need to explain what an array is in this context because it's not just a magical trap.
Right. When we say array, don't picture a pit full of spikes or a guy shooting a fireball. The arrays, like the Ten Furies array or the Nine Tunes Yellow River array, are the ancient mythological equivalents of nuclear deterrents. They are localized manipulations of reality itself.
Take the 10 theories array, for instance. It's 10 interconnected zones that manipulate fundamental elements like wind, fire, space, sound.
Pure chaos.
If you step inside without the specific decryption key, the environment itself disintegrates your physical form and shatters your soul.
But the Chan sect, being highly organized, doesn't just charge in.
No, they're methodical.
They send in low-level cannon fodder, often expendable mortal generals or low-ranking disciples, to trigger the traps and analyze the mechanics. Once the trap is sprung and on cooldown, the elite operatives step in and dismantle the hardware.
It's ruthless. They literally use human lives as minesweepers to protect their core assets.
But the G-sect realizes this, and they escalate to the Nine Turns Yellow River array. Our sources dedicate entire chapters to this specific WMD because it fundamentally changes the rules of engagement. Can you explain how this specific array works?
The Nine Turns Yellow River array is a corporate poison pill. It doesn't just kill you, it destroys your fundamental value.
Wow.
Inside the array is an artifact called the Primordial Chaos Golden Dipper. When activated, it generates a cosmic EMP. It strips what the texts called the 3 flowers from the crown and the 5 energies from the chest.
Okay, translate that into corporate physics for me.
It zeroes out your metaphysical bank account. Remember how we said immortals spend thousands of years cultivating ki?
Yeah.
This array forcefully extracts all of it in an instant. It severs your connection to the Tao. A senior Chan sect executive who's lived for 10,000 years gets sucked into this array, and when they are spat out, they are a baseline, powerless mortal.
That is terrifying.
All their stock options, their accumulated wealth, their immunity to disease and aging, gone. It is total asset forfeiture.
When the G-sect sets this up, it's like a tech company getting so mad about a pricing war that their board of directors shows up at the competitor's office lobby and throws a literal atom bomb to wipe out the competitor's entire server farm.
That's an accurate description.
It completely neutralizes the Chan sect's 12 golden immortals.
But how does the Chan sect respond? Because Yuanqi Tianzhen, the Ivy League CEO, anticipated this escalation, didn't he?
He did. He used the G-sect's emotional volatility against them. He knew they would eventually overreact and deploy WMDs, which gave him the legal and moral justification to personally intervene.
It's a brilliantly evil strategy. The Chan sect was cold, calculating, and unified. When the G CEO, Tongqin Zhaozu, is pushed to the absolute brink, he lays down the Zuxian array, the immortal slaughtering array.
The ultimate weapon.
This is the doomsday device of this universe. It consists of 4 primordial swords that can literally reboot the universe and reset reality to 0. The G-Sec CEO says, if you're going to liquidate my company, I'm taking the entire cosmic market down with me. But the Chan sect doesn't panic. What do?
They call in favors. Yuanqi Tianzhen realizes he can't break the doomsday array alone. So he brings in outside consultants.
The ultimate corporate move.
He calls up the 2 saints of the Western sect, essentially a rival corporate entity that will later become Buddhism. He offers them massive market shares in the East in exchange for their help.
A strategic alliance.
4 CEOs team up to jump the one G-sect CEO. They systematically dismantle the array not just with brute force, but with superior organizational strategy and corporate alliances.
It is a masterclass in why rapid, unregulated scaling destroys startups.
Especially when they finally come up against a disciplined, entrenched monopoly willing to make backroom deals.
The G-sect was defeated by their own lack of structure. They had the raw power, but they allowed themselves to be provoked into fighting a war of attrition they were never prepared to manage.
Yeah, they just couldn't handle the logistics.
Their leadership failed to protect their employees from the systemic traps set by the Chan sect.
So the servers are smoking. The doomsday array is dismantled. The outside consultants have taken their payment and left. The earthly war reaches its violent, bloody conclusion. The capital of Shang is breached.
The end of the road.
This brings us to the ultimate question of the texts. Take a breath. Swirl that ice in your glass, because this is the part that really hits home. After the dust settles, who actually gets the payout? Who won the merger?
The final scorecard is always revealing, and it rarely, if ever, matches the initial PR campaign that justified the war in the first place.
Exactly. Let's look at the board. First, the inciting incident. The Shang dynasty completely collapses. King Zhu, the surface's strongest CEO, watches his armies rout.
Reality finally catches up with him.
He realizes his earthly stock is completely worthless, the creditors are kicking down the palace doors, and his monopoly is gone. So he puts on his most expensive suit, covers himself in jewels, climbs up to the star-plucking tower, and sets himself on fire.
A dramatic exit.
The ultimate, catastrophic failure of a golden parachute. He burns the C-suite down with him. It's over. Earthly management has been violently liquidated.
Which leaves our project manager, Jiang Zia, standing alone on the platform.
Right. Jiang Zia, the 72-year-old middle manager who couldn't cut it as an immortal, stands on the investiture platform. He holds the list, the final cosmically binding HR restructuring document, and he starts reading off the names of the dead.
The new org chart.
Let's break down the winners and the losers of this cosmic merger. First, the supposed winners. The Western Zoo. King Wen died before the war ended, but his son King Wu takes the throne. They get the earthly operating rights.
They launch Great Zoo 1.0.
And become the new monopoly. But let's be real, they're just mortals. They're middle management in the grand scheme of things.
They won the franchise rights. They get to run the local branch.
Yeah.
But they don't own the corporate entity. They are still entirely subservient to the heavenly court. They just traded one set of cosmic overlords for another.
Brilliant way to put it. Now, look at the losers. The G-Sect. The chaotic, massive startup. Their company was entirely liquidated. Tens of thousands of their employees were slaughtered.
Complete devastation.
Their CEO, Teng Qinjiaozu, was reprimanded by the ultimate universal founder, Hong Jun, and put under cosmic house arrest for trying to reboot the universe.
He lost his position entirely.
But here is the massive, incredibly cynical twist of fate. Because their employees died in the proxy war, their souls were captured by the investiture list. They physically lost the war. Their startup failed, but they filled 90% of the heavenly quota. They got the ultimate iron rice bowl.
Secure, eternal government jobs in the heavenly court bureaucracy.
Exactly. Remember what we said in the beginning. They lost their freedom. They can no longer float on clouds, cultivate their own power, or be independent contractors.
They are trapped in the hardware of the heavenly court.
But they have dental, they have vision, and they have eternal job security managing the rain, the stars, the plagues, and the thunder. The god of wealth, a dead G-Sect manager. The god of thunder, a dead G-Sect manager.
They failed upward.
They failed upward into a bloated, cosmic bureaucracy. It's so painfully realistic it hurts.
They became exactly what they were fighting against. But the true victory, if you can call it that, belongs to the architect of the merger.
The big boss.
Yeah.
Yuanshi Tianzhen, the CEO of the Ivy League Chan sect. Let's look at what this guy actually accomplished. He was handed a mandate by the heavenly chairman. A massive forced downsizing.
He had to provide 365 high-level bodies for the HR quota.
What did he do? He successfully manipulated the entire system. He weaponized King Zhu's typo. He provoked his market competitors into an all-out proxy war. And he used the conflict to completely clear out his competition.
He filled the layoff list almost entirely with the rival startup's employees, satisfying the regulatory requirement without sacrificing his own core C-suite executives.
Yes, his 12 golden immortals survived. Neza, Yang Jian, they didn't die. They got to keep their physical bodies, their independent cultivation, and their stock options.
They get to remain free agents.
Yuanshi Tianzhen kept his company entirely intact, satisfied the IRS of the universe, and destroyed his only major market rival.
He weaponized the regulatory requirement to eliminate his competition. That is the fundamental takeaway of the text. There was no grand victory of good over evil.
Not at all.
Good and evil were just the marketing spin designed to motivate the mortal foot soldiers on the ground. It was always, from the very beginning, a predetermined market consolidation.
I shake my head every time I think about the sheer, unadulterated cynicism of it. The text is basically looking you right in the eye across this bar and telling you the cold, hard truth.
Which is?
Whether you are a legendary immortal floating on clouds with magic swords, or a poor, freezing mortal foot soldier dying in the mud on Earth, as long as you are in the game, you have to play by the chairman's rules. You think you're fighting for justice. You think you're fighting out of loyalty to your master or for the fate of your nation. But to the big boss, you're just consumable material. You are office supplies.
It's expendable assets.
You are a toner cartridge for the universe. When you run out of ink, they throw you away, plug in a new one, and the cosmic printer just keeps printing.
It is the ultimate historical lesson in systemic power. The real game is always played entirely above your head, and the rules are continuously rewritten to ensure the house always wins.
So we wrap up this deep dive into the source material. Investiture of the Gods, Fengshen Yanyi. It is so much more than a chaotic tale of magic, monsters, and mythical beasts.
Much more.
It is a painfully accurate, ruthlessly sharp reflection of geopolitics, proxy wars, and cutthroat corporate survival. It was written centuries ago, during the Ming Dynasty, reflecting on a war from 3,000 years ago, but it is entirely, flawlessly applicable to the boardroom dynamics and international politics of today.
The fundamental mechanisms of power don't really change.
The technology changes, the magic fades, but human nature, or immortal nature, I guess, doesn't change one bit. It just gets better PR.
Which brings us to a final question.
Oh, lay it on them.
For you, sitting there listening, nursing the rest of that drink, everyone fights so hard to be recognized, to get that promotion, to climb the ladder and get their name on the modern-day investiture of the gods list in their specific industry.
Everybody wants to be on the list.
But look at the G-sect. They fought, they bled, they brought out weapons of mass destruction, they got on the list, and they lost their freedom forever.
Yeah, they did.
So ask yourself, is the promotion you are currently killing yourself for an actual victory? Or are you just willingly, enthusiastically applying for a golden pair of handcuffs?
Oof. Now that is a thought to keep you up at night. I think we'll leave it right there. Finish your drink. Ponder that golden pair of handcuffs. Stay safe out there in the corporate trenches. Keep an eye on your karmic ledger. And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.